What is going on, you all? Where have you guys been? I mean, I've been missing you all. You guys been MIA. Just kidding. I know I've been gone for a while, but hopefully I am in a space where I can be consistent for you all and answer some questions that I've been getting over the past year. One of the topics that comes up the most is about femininity. A lot of people are using the way they feel about men and the way men respond as an idea or a tool of knowing what femininity is and how to use it. I think that we should take the aspect of someone else out of the equation and make it solely about ourselves. When we try to use someone else as a measure, in order to figure out something within ourselves, that's where we kind of get lost in translation. We will start off by giving you my explanation or what I think femininity is. I really truly think that it's more than just getting dressed and having your hair done, looking a certain way, presenting yourself a certain way. It's much deeper than all of the surface things that you can possibly do to appear feminine. And I think that we're all trying to figure out what we should do with that concept. What does it mean? Why do we need to tap into it? How do we tap into it? What does it look like for us personally? Nothing against men. We're just going to take them out of the equation completely because at the end of the day, femininity is just growth in womanhood. It's maturity in womanhood. It's understanding that your alchemy in self and your physical, your spiritual, your emotional, your soul, it's all growing and going into evolution. So at the end of the day, to try to measure it in someone else's experience just doesn't make sense at all whatsoever. Now, you will be able to see the changes in how other people respond to you when you are tapped into your femininity because the change is vibrational. The change is God. So when we try to use other people and try to make it seem like this is how I know I'm tapped in my femininity because this person wants to give me this or this person wants to do that for me, that is just scratching the surface. Another point that I've noticed is a lot of women, I think that we know this as a people. If we don't, then you're going to find out today. A lot of us are in our masculine energy. The reason why we would be in masculine energy is because the way the world is constructed currently today, the way we take care of ourselves, the way we provide for our families, everything is set up to be in a masculine energy and a masculine role. There is nothing in this world that seems like it will work if we don't operate in a go-getting spirit, if we don't operate in a sense of, you know what, I'm a money maker, I'm a hustler, I'm this, I'm that, I get what I want, people can't fool me, they can't trick me. This whole game that really doesn't mean anything is a bunch of fluffed feathers trying to make other people scared of you instead of being in your power and being still in your power. So why would women want to tap into their femininity when someone is throwing rhetoric on this side of the internet or that side of the internet that all you do is sit and just have somebody give to you, all you do is receive? But those of us that have a lot of energy and emotion and we're go-getters and we have that spirit to just achieve and create, that doesn't sound appealing to us. I'm one of those people. I'm the type of person that in high school, I used to go get whatever it was that I needed and wanted. I didn't let people talk me out of things. I didn't let people deter me away from the goals that I wanted to achieve. I realized after tapping into my femininity, as I became more mature, that it was just so much easier to achieve what I needed to achieve in alignment with my soul and my femininity. Now, to tap onto the aspect of comfort, I wasn't comfortable with allowing myself to receive from others. I wasn't comfortable with releasing the fate of what might happen and not overthinking and trying to figure out, okay, if I make this move, then I need to be 10 steps ahead in every single direction to understand once it starts to look a certain type of way, I know exactly where it's going to go. I needed to be in the driver's seat at all times of the future aspect of my destiny. That is reserved for God. That is exactly how I tapped into my femininity. I stumbled into my femininity. It wasn't something that was popular. It wasn't something that I was looking for. I was just out of options. I was in my physical form. I was trying to create the dream that I had for myself when I was a teenager. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be in a great place. I wanted to live in a condo, have a convertible with a purse dog. Still to this day, like Mariah Carey had a music video a long time ago. I think it was Heartbreaker, and she had like this cute little Pomeranian dog. And I was like, I'm going to have one of those dogs that I can put in my purse and walk around with some type of luxury bag and it's just me and my dog. I ended up living a completely different life other than what I expected and I imagined for myself. I ended up having a son, but I was still in that go-getter energy. I was still fighting and fighting against all odds and constantly getting knocked down, trying to achieve something that I made up in my mind when I was like 15. I didn't know what the heck my soul came here to do. Once I got to my ceiling in the physical of trying to go my own way and trying to map out my own life the way I think I should have it, I realized that I was incredibly empty inside. I had an epiphany that once I obtained whatever it was that I was looking for, I would be empty. I wouldn't be happy. And it's ironic to say, because we think that once we achieve all of our goals, that you're crazy not to be happy. It's incredibly selfish to sit here and say, oh, my life is so bad, or I'm not happy, and there's other people that don't have half of what you have. So for me personally, I knew the only direction I can turn was to God, and to sit with God and stop trying to figure everything out for myself and say, you know what, whatever my purpose is, I'm going to hand it to you. I want you to help guide me and help me understand why I incarnated into this life. Whatever you may believe about how we got here, I don't care. I didn't even know whether my ideals of what I think and how I think we all got here and why we're here was right or wrong. I just understood in my spirit something wasn't right. Something was off kilter, and I needed God to show up for me. And even though I felt in the past that I know that I should believe in God, I know that I shouldn't question God and God's might and what God can do, but I just kind of felt like, I don't feel like I'm God's favorite. Like I'm going through all of these different things in life, and I just can't explain what in the world I did to experience this life. And I just felt like, man, I must have had some type of sins, or I must be living life wrong to experience life this way. So for me to turn to God and not really know if God had my back, or not having any examples of what that may look like to me, I knew that I was at my wits, and I knew that there was no other place to turn for me. And that conversation was the most serious conversation that I've ever had in the privacy of self, that I've ever had with God. I typically don't ask God for anything except for clarity and to be gentle with me and clear understanding. At the end of the day, talking to God, I didn't even know how to really pray outside of just reading someone else's words and trying to get those words to manifest for me. I knew that I just had to speak from my heart. I had to talk like I was talking to something that created me, something that didn't judge me, something that understood where I was coming from. And I also knew that God would understand what I was saying, even though I didn't have the right words to say. And I literally just said, you know what, whatever my purpose is, I'm ready to live it. I'm ready for you to guide me. Whatever it is. Typically, I like to play it safe. I'm not going to say, oh, whatever my destiny is, just let me live it. You have no idea how many options there are and who you can be. That was scary for me to say. But when I said it, I meant it. Whatever my purpose is, whatever I'm supposed to be, whatever my path is, that is what I want to be. Please help me get to that point. I had to tell God, I'm going to trust you. And even when I said, I'm going to trust you, it was like something fell in the pit of my stomach. It's like when you get on the very top of the roller coaster and you're dropping, that first instant of dropping. I was so scared to say that. And that's how I knew that everything that I was saying was real, because I understood that I now have to operate blindly. I have to operate and follow directions, and I don't even know how to choose. I don't know when God is speaking to me. I don't know how the signs look. I don't know how to tell whether what I'm doing is right or whether it's wrong, or whether I just need to go in this situation or this direction and not fully indulge. I just didn't know. That was so challenging for me. I didn't understand that when you go with the flow, you just end up where you're supposed to be, and you figure out what you can figure out about the situation. You learn what you can learn about the situation. So going down that path for me, that submission, that was for God. It wasn't for anything material on this plane. It wasn't for any partner that I ever had. It wasn't for submission in any titles that I own or that I have. When people think of me, oh, you're a mother, or oh, you work here, you're a that. None of that stuff mattered. I had to just submit into the Most High and trust that everything was going to be all right. And for somebody that overthinks, that is hard, honey. So exactly how will you tap into your femininity? You may not have your back against the wall like I was. I kind of feel like you all that do will find this video though. At the same time, you may not have that same scenario that I had where you were tired of endless repeated cycles, where you were tired of just feeling lost, where you were feeling like you were constantly beat down all the time. You may not be there. You may just want to tap into your femininity and you're curious about how it feels for you. I would say to learn how to connect to source, God, Allah, the universe, whatever words you use to identify the creator. Learn how to not just serve or bow or ask or beg this energy. Learn how to allow this energy to flow and operate around you and through you and be you. You have to become one with this energy. And the only way you can do that is to learn how to trust yourself, to learn how to tap into your intuition. And that is another thing that I know a lot of us have an issue with because everything is so fast paced. It's incredibly difficult to trust your inner voice, especially when you silenced it for so long. The reason why I'm so in tune with my intuition is because my past has been so tumultuous that when I ignored that voice and I had that inkling, I should probably listen to that, but I still want to go to this party or I still want to go over here, something bad would happen. And instantly it would reverse straight to when that voice said something to me, when I had that inkling. It wasn't even a voice, it wasn't a sound, it was just a vibration, a tingling in my body, in my chest. And I just understood like I probably shouldn't do that. And every single time I did that, whatever that was, I would end up in a situation where I regretted that I made that decision. But that was my lesson. That was my repeating cycle. Trusting my inner voice came with pain. So for you to not invoke pain, you would just have to start paying attention to the things that are going on around you. Pay attention to how you feel about certain things, how things are operating in your body. Pay attention to your mind and the things that you're thinking about. Pay attention to how you operate when you're not really paying attention. The best way to figure out who you are is in situations where you might zone out, like driving or doing your favorite activity, painting, singing. Those are good ways to get directly connected with source and to be conscious in those spaces. Honestly, right now my right ear is ringing, so I know I'm on point with this. It's very low, but it's ringing. So to start paying attention and become conscious of what is happening within you, within your universe, and how your actions are moving and shifting things around you, you'll start to become more hyper aware of the subtle things. You'll start to get an inkling about things, but it may not be clear. Just recognize that you had it. Tell yourself, I hear you. I see you. I don't understand you yet, but I will. Write things down in a journal if you feel inclined to. If you feel like you should be doing something that seems minuscule, like, oh, I feel like I need to put the pot on the left burner instead of the right burner, do it. You have to act in your feelings. If you feel like you need to lock your top lock and you never lock your top lock, even though you know you live in a safe neighborhood, when the voice of reason comes in, when you feel like you should do something that doesn't make sense or it seems very odd to you, that is when you just act on it. You have to start gaining your trust in self. You have to prove to yourself that you're willing to listen to self, that you're willing to operate in self. And you start to realize that your voice gets a little bit louder, a little bit more apparent. It might come to the front a little bit more often. And then you will be operating before you even know it in your intuition and be able to trust yourself and to trust the direction that you're going in. So after saying all of that, you may already have figured out what the benefits for you are in dealing with your femininity and tapping into your femininity. You may also be thinking this is going to be a lot of work, which actually it is going to be a lot of work. Or you may be thinking, you know what? This doesn't sound like femininity at all. This sounds like healing work. Healing self, healing your DNA, healing your ancestors, healing your body, your womb. All of that is healing your femininity and assisting you and preparing you to walk in the path that you need to walk into in your power, in your womanhood. Femininity equals womanhood. The benefit is also knowing how to deal with situations. there's a certain wisdom that also comes with everything that I've already mentioned. Your intuition, knowing when to step into things, knowing when to step out of things, knowing when to step away from things, knowing when to speak up, knowing when to stand up. There's power in that. Knowing that you trust yourself to operate within your intuition. So when something is happening too fast and you don't have enough time to think, you know that your immediate reaction isn't from a place of trauma or isn't from a place of self-distrust. You know that you're operating in your power. You're operating and creating with source. Source is speaking through you at all times. When we're in situations and we have more confidence in trusting ourselves and knowing that we're not going to let us down and embarrass ourselves, that is incredibly powerful. That is the essence of the energy that people feel and admire in others, and they can't really put their finger on it. That is it. As a recovering people pleaser, and I wasn't actually a people pleaser. I wasn't actually a people pleaser. I wasn't actually a people pleaser. That is a tongue twister. I wasn't actually a people pleaser in the essence that people would think. I would just keep the peace around me, but I was definitely still very vocal and I stood up for myself still, no matter what. And I could be abrasive as well. It's just certain situations or instances, I would just not want to cause drama if I'm dealing with somebody that I know is not going to hear me, that I know is not going to appreciate my input or how I see things differently. Coming from that place of people pleasing and trying to keep the peace by silencing myself, I realized that this journey and trying to heal and self-evolution is important and is tied to every aspect of your life. So now that I've healed myself in certain areas and I understand who I am growing in my womanhood, I realize that the answer isn't always to be polite. The answer isn't always to try to save grace or to not say something out of fear of disrupting the room, because a lot of people around us, let's face it, aren't doing anything to try to improve themselves. They're not looking at themselves and seeing how their behavior will trigger another person. They just get mad at you because you're triggered from what they're doing. But also, once you start healing and they realize you're not triggered by the usual buttons that they push, they'll try even harder to push the buttons. It's just like the energy or the idea that I've heard all through my life that once you start praying and once you get good within, it seems like the demons are all gone. And then once you slip up one time, they come back full-fledged with a group of friends to tear you down. That's kind of how it is once you heal and people use certain things to manipulate you and trigger you and try to get a rise out of you, and it doesn't work. They try to go even harder. The answer isn't always to let them hit you and turn your other cheek. Sometimes you have to fight back, but you have to fight back strategically. And even in those moments, because now you're connected to source, now you're connected to self, now that you trust self and you trust your judgment, you know how to operate in a way that is conducive to you, them, and this situation as a whole, while also maintaining your own energy and vibration. You will come off to them as abrasive. You standing in your power is the only thing that's abrasive to them. You are who you are supposed to be in that moment. So even if you're triggering them, just because you heal, just because you find femininity, doesn't mean that you're going to walk through life, you're floating on clouds and everything is going to be in good graces and you're not going to trigger anyone and everybody is frolicking through these fields. That's not what it is. You're still going to have people come around you and be incredibly disturbed by your energy. The only difference is now it's not going to move you. You'll be shocked at how you can look at the situation and say, wow, typically I wouldn't have this time or this calm to be able to sit within myself and say, this person is operating in a really nasty energy. I can feel this energy. I felt this energy in others before. You start to remove their faces and start to associate this energy with energy and not with a person with a name. You start to free yourself from grudges and anger and despair. You start to realize that, wow, actually, everything is just energy. After you have that realization and that epiphany, it feels like you got everything else figured out. Trust me, there's more learning and more growing and more maturing in womanhood. It feels really good to be able to have at least a little piece of something figured out and to not be a slave to your anger anger. Your anger is like this bulldog that's on a leash, and all of these different people just pass the leash around, and they're dragging you and provoking you and hitting you and pointing at you and saying, look, 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 they're a monster. When you know you're not a monster, you just want to be left alone. So a lot of us, we retreat when you shouldn't have to retreat. You have every right to be able to still operate in crowds around different people and still stand in your power and not be moved or agitated being in these spaces. That is stepping into your power, not hiding. There are times where you will have to go into hermit mode and you will have to recover. But baby, once you figure out that femininity, once you gain your power, you won't need to run and hide and sit in the corner and alienate yourself from everyone else. You get to live life, and you deserve to live life just like everybody else is not doing what they're supposed to do. This is why I love the topic of femininity, because it's really empowering. And once you tap into femininity from the aspect of operating and submitting to God, you start to realize that everything else in life moves in a magical type of way. Everything feels so magical, so empowering, and you will probably never feel empowerment that way in any other instance. There's so many different movements happening right now as we speak, and they all claim to have power or be in the name of empowerment, having equalization, but it's a different feeling. Once you tap into your feminine energy, it's not a rough edged surface. It's a very smooth, calm, flowing energy, and you're just resting in that energy. You still move, you still operate, you still create. You're still a woman of means that is able to get up and do and get things done. At the same time, things come to you so much easier. There's still some negative aspects of the idea of femininity based on what people are talking about and what they say. One of the things is, and personally, I think I used to do this as well. I was heavily in my masculine energy. I would get dressed up, I would go out with friends, and we would look cute and have our hair done and makeup slayed, all of that good stuff, nails done, everything on point. It was almost like being a man in a dress. It was giving very masculine, very abrasive attitude. I felt like I had to constantly protect myself, and that's a blessing when you actually tap into your femininity. You don't have to protect yourself. You operate in an essence where you are always protected by source. You don't ever end up in situations where you're in trouble, for real. You don't end up in situations where you have to curse somebody out or you have to manhandle someone. You don't have to do that. You may see it, you may experience it from afar. Someone may try it with you, but automatically your confidence is through the roof and they have none. And when someone is up against someone like that, they typically back down. So the femininity version that women are using nowadays to get something out of someone, to manipulate people, give it back to men. I've heard terms like dark femininity. I'm sorry, baby, because you put on dark lipstick and you did your hair and you look sexy and men are attracted to you now and they weren't before, and you want to treat everybody like shit, that does not make you dark feminine. You're just operating in masculine energy. You're a man dressed up as a woman, if we want to bring it down to layman terms. Femininity is understanding that you are a lioness, you are a warrior. It's just you go about it a different way, and it's not forced. People can feel that power. People can feel that backup behind you. You don't have to wear it on your sleeves. You don't have to be very surface with it. You just come off looking broken still and playing into a narrative. It's not something that is rooted in love. I had an epiphany the other day. The term that people like to use, they fell out of love. He fell out of love with me. She fell out of love with me. I fell out of love with them. It's not them. It's not you. You didn't fall out of love with an object. You fell out of the love vibration. If we would stack the vibrations of each energy that we have, let's say love is at the top. Let's say gratitude is also at the top. Right in the next clip, the audio is a little different. The mic died and I had no idea, but let's get into this message. Pardon me, I had to reference the book, and I want to make sure that I get these vibrations correctly based on what this book is saying. If we line all of those on top of each other, we stack them all up on top of each other. When you're in the vibration of love and you fall out of the vibration, You are now in other vibrations. It feels like you fell out of love with that individual, but you really fell out of the love vibration. So when you're doing things that aren't rooted in love and you fall out of the love vibration, you cannot connect it with femininity or growth and womanhood. Growth and womanhood is not necessarily something that you fall out of. It's just like riding a bike. Once you ride a bike, no one can take that knowledge away from you. You will automatically get yourself back on a bike unless something catastrophic happened to you, and you'll be able to ride it again. Even if you've gone 15 years without riding it, you'll still be able to ride it again. So once you get to a certain level in maturing in womanhood, that's something that can't be taken away from you. It's now become a belief. It's become a construct of your mind. It's become something that is in your soul DNA. That is what I call wisdom. Once you hit wisdom, it's something that is now placed into your energetic DNA. When you fall out of the vibration of love and you fall victim to all of these other vibrations that don't necessarily feel so good, you start to do things like manipulate. You start to use manipulation tactics and call it femininity. Oh, I didn't come at this person direct. I was very underhanded with it. I used body language to get my point across. I use these mind games to get my point across. You're tapping into your femininity, and it's sourced in source. When it's sourced from God, when you are doing it for the sole reason of God, when you're anchored in walking with source in this energy, you don't need to play chess. You don't need to use your brain. You're operating in flow, and you will always come out winning. No matter how it looks, you'll always come out winning. So that's the other thing. When you are in a driver's seat, you're trying to dictate where you're going to go in your plan. You miss out on lessons, you miss out on tools, because now you're going in circles, you're driving in circles, you're in another cycle going round and round and round. And when you start to let source guide you, even though you're being guided in a direction that doesn't even look like femininity, it is a major tool for you in your feminine journey. The main thing is understanding that you don't have to think and plan every single layout of every single thing in order to be ahead. You can have a generalized idea of where you like things to be, or how you would like to feel, or what you would like to see in your existence. And the rest, you go with the flow until you have to make another plan. And source will let you know that. You don't have to plan every single little step. You lose yourself in that. Now you're relying on astrology. Now you're relying on tarot cards. Now you're relying on your practitioner that's burning cord cutting candles. You have the power. You don't need any divination tools. You don't need anybody else to tell you but source. The other amount of wisdom that's in there that a lot of people miss when they skip steps and they just try to play dress up in femininity is you don't realize that source operates through people, yes, but you don't have to attach yourself to those people. I'll never forget, and I'll share this story time with you. I was talking to this individual. They were interested in me. I was curious about them, actually, not so much interested, just curious. And they had a top profession. They were lucrative in funds. I'll never forget when we exchanged phone numbers. I did not like this person's energy. I felt like I didn't feel like I knew that this person was very insecure. And because they were trying to hide their insecurities from me and not seem vulnerable with me, they did a lot of fluffing of feathers. They did a lot of things that was very abrasive and offensive. I wasn't able to connect with this individual. My intuition told me, though, give this person some time. My intuition didn't tell me, this is my person, this is my twin flame. Oh, because he has money, I need to go in this direction. I'm going to be taken care of. So this makes the most sense. That's not what was going on. I understood that this person was something that God put in my life so that I can gain something from this situation, and it was more so to help me on my journey. It was a puzzle piece that I was missing that I needed for the next step. I just didn't know that. I knew that there was a reason why this person came into my life. I knew there was a reason why I felt the obligation to continue conversations with this person, even though it got to a point I could not stand their guts. I couldn't. They were too much for me. It was too much fugazi behavior. They were all over the place. They thought that they were winning with me, and I just wasn't interested. And the more non-interested I was, the more this person was leaning in and trying to get me to fall for them, so on and so forth. And they were just playing all of the games, and I was seeing through all of it. And I just understood that this is not where it is. But I understand also that this is where I need to be. We had a conversation, and we got on the topic of trust. They said something, and it was not of my character. I felt like as long as we've been talking, they should already have picked up that I'm a pretty trustworthy person. It prompted me to ask them, hey, how do you operate in trust? And I really didn't know how to ask the question, but what I was getting at was, when you first meet a person, where do you start them off with trust? And he was like, I mean, if it's on a scale of 1 to 100, I was like, yeah. He was like, maybe like a 7. I probably put you at a 7. Now, the other thing is, this person is also projecting as well, but I didn't go into, oh, they're projecting because they can't be trusted. I caught them in a million lies. I didn't go into that mindset. Something in me sparked, and I was like, this is it. This is where I need to listen. This is why this person came into my reality. And I did not like what he said, because I hold myself to a standard morally that I am a very trustworthy person. I'm a person that you can count on. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be there. If I say this, I'm going to do that. If anything happens and I need to change plans, I'll let you know promptly. I am a communicator. I take other people's time and emotion into account. So when he said this, and it was for me, I did not like what he was saying, but I knew that what he was saying was goals. So he said, where do you start people off with trust? And I was like, 100%. There's no reason for me to not trust them. I'm not looking at people and just distrusting everybody. And he was like, that's not good, because if you start everybody at 100, there's no way to go but down. Oh, a word from someone that I did not like. I did not like this person, but I felt it. I was like, that was a blow. That was a blow to my ego, but my ego was already seated. And I understood, wow, I have been looking at the idea of trust wrong. This is the reason why I constantly get rid of people out of my life, and I'm not happy with how people show up, because I'm giving them too much to begin with, and they don't have anywhere to go but in the direction to disappoint me. And that is why I've been so disappointed in so many people for so many years. And I had to realize, wow, I've been looking at this wrong. After that, I felt an immediate release. I was like, wow, I feel free now. I can let this person go. So you know what I did? I wanted this person to let me go too. I started to behave like I was interested. I was like, oh yeah, thank you so much. I saw this and you helped me figure that out, and giving them all the ego stroke that they needed. And I promise you, the very next day, they used to call me every single day, text me all the time, send me all of these different things. The next day, they did not call, they did not text. The next day after that, same thing. And I was happy for it. I played into their hand to make sure that they got away from me. I took the gym when the gym was needed, and I really appreciate that. Like, that was the gym that I needed. That was something that I was so happy that I didn't start another cycle with an individual that didn't need to be in my life any longer than that day. So that is what it looks like when you operate in your femininity. That is what it looks like when you're maturing in womanhood and you trust yourself, you trust your intuition. So hopefully you all got something out of that, and I dropped a couple of gems. Maybe I gave you a few ideas. Definitely feel free to comment down below and let me know if I missed any part of this conversation that you want me to touch on in the next video. I really appreciate you for being here. All the love in the world, peace, love, and a little bit of spice. I'll see you later.